Well, somebody's been greeted by Morné's dogs. Well, hello, everybody. Hello. Happy Monday. Welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa with our beautiful BRICE. Magical, mystical, mythical, marvelous Monday. Hello, Brycey. How are you? Hello, Morné and his dogs.
So good.
Happy birthday for Saturday, Bryce.
Oh, I know. I was telling, I'm going to have to just tell our audience, they'll have to forgive me. I was telling Morné and Chantelle, I drank on Saturday night. I don't normally drink. I thought I would be okay by Monday, but I'm still hungover. So if you see my skin get red or my eyes start to go, it's my body is still
Don't worry, mine's coming up on Friday.
Yep.
And I cannot promise to behave. However, we shall see. It's Aquarius season, everybody. Join us and have fun on our...
Aquarians are fun. I think Aquarians are really fun people. We know how to have fun. We're very detached. So like whatever, so I think we're fun. I know I had fun. So I'm a happy drunk. I don't drink. I drink like 3 times a year, maybe at that, but I'm a very happy drunk. So happy paying for it on Monday morning. I'm still paying for it. So
yeah. Well, I tell you, that's the one thing when you live a sort of a cleaner, healthier sort of lifestyle, definitely your body tells you all about it when you are the next day. However, bentonite clay, baby. Have you not heard of bentonite clay?
No.
Or charcoal.
Oh, charcoal, yes. Yes.
Charcoal, activated charcoal. Best thing, it absorbs the toxins. However, yes, it is Aquarius season, so we're talking about hangovers because we're having a birthday. And we had a birthday on this channel, or Bryce did. So, yeah, what can we say? We will drink activated charcoal and bentonite clay in these moments of need.
Absolutely.
Just so everyone knows.
Well, and I want to say too, like, I love that you guys also will drink on occasion as well, because I know when people first get on the spiritual path, they go completely dogmatic and like, but you also have to live your life. You also have to, I was saying that my youngest niece, who is the 3rd child, so most parents will appreciate this, got to the restaurant, she's almost 2, without her shoes on. And my sister was like, we got here and realized she didn't have shoes on. Oh, well, that's the 3rd child. But we were having cake at the end of the night, and my mom kept giving my 2-year-old niece like the cake part, not the icing, and she didn't want it. I was giving her the cake with the icing, so I was her favorite. And she herself got a little bit of a sugar high and was a little bit slap happy. So we were both slap happy. Both my 2-year-old niece and myself were slap happy. Me from alcohol, her from sugar. So it was a great night. She didn't have shoes on. I might have left my jacket, who knows, so.
Well, I'm definitely getting slap happy on Friday. Anyway, so moving on to the spiritual side of who we are.
Very spiritual.
This, I want to tell you, is no straight and narrow road. It's wide and winding. It's a very fun path to be on. So we are talking about Emerald Tablets, still number 3. I was thinking we're probably on part 17,000 by now, but apparently it's only part 10. So we still have a few more episodes to go about how not to be an asshole, according to Bryce, from Thoth. So we're learning how to be nice people.
And I will say, I was telling before we started, like, I have not even looked at tablet 4 yet. So who knows how many, this just gets more and more and more and more interesting as we keep digging into the tablets. So yeah, if you guys are just, I don't know if I froze or y'all froze. Okay, I'll just keep going. So tablet 1 and tablet 2, again, if you guys we're going in consecutive order of the tablets. So go back on their archives. We have the first tablet, second tablet. That only took 1 show, because the first and second tablet are like the who, what, where, when, and why. Like, who is Thoth? what are the emerald tablets, what happened at the fall of Atlantis, very interesting stuff. Then we get to the third tablet, and again, this is my opinion, it's basically Thoth telling you how not to be an asshole. Like, it's literally him telling you why you're here as a spiritual being, how you free yourself from enslavement or bondage, which is basically one of our favorite topics, which we call in modern lingo shadow work, like going in and really removing that bondage from yourself, that enslavement from yourself. We reviewed in the beginning, he talked about gossip being dangerous, like don't gossip about people. He really instructed you on like judging people for yourself. Don't listen to hearsay or rumors. If you want to know about someone, judge them for yourself. And as you guys know, last week we started our study of the chakra system. We're getting into call the chakras different names than the Sanskrit names we're used to, which I find very fascinating. Very fascinating. So these are different names. And what I think was and I was actually thinking about this all week, because as you guys know, like today we're going to start with verse 36 of tablet 3, which is the 6th chakra. As you guys know, normally we talk about the chakras, we start from the root, the base of the Muladhara, as it is in Sanskrit, the root chakra, and we work up. Well, they're going down. They're starting from the crown chakra and are going to move down, which is very interesting. I've been thinking a lot about that. Like, why would Thoth and Shishat start from the top and go down instead of starting from the down and rise up? Well, if you guys, on my channel, we have studied Magdalene's gospel, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, where she talks about all of this stuff as well. She talks about the kleshas, the limitations of the soul, the ego, and she also refers to descending, that you have to descend before you can ascend. And I was thinking about that, like what she means by that. You have to dive deep into like the ugliness of yourself before you can ever rise back up again. So in my mind, that's what Thoth is doing as well. He's starting from you from the top and having you descend into yourself. And so I want to also really this is huge. And I know that a lot of times when people first start their spiritual journey, they want what we call in yoga siddhis. They want to work on like the magical powers and like skip the real hard stuff. They want to get to the third chakra. They want to, do all these things. And if you have not dealt with the lower chakras, all this is going to be fucked up. It's going to be delusional, derangement. There's not going to be clarity. And so you have to start at the root of everything, your humanness. And that's why, like in the Yoga Sutras, the 4 padas, we always say, students start with the first and second pada, which is basically the first and second pada are, the practice. And like, what is suffering? What is your mind? The third and fourth pada, even though they're available when you get the Yoga Sutras, you can read them. They're not taught to you until like 10 or 15 years later. You can read them, but they won't be taught to you for a while, because it's all about the real in-depth understanding of consciousness, the siddhis, all these kind of stuff. And that's why they're doing it, because you've got to go through the humanness of you and your own bondage, so that bondage does not affect the spiritual paralysis. And I think that's what they're doing. I think they're doing the same thing that Magdalene did. They're having you go down instead of starting from the bottom and going up. That's my thought on that. So we start today with verse 36, which is the 6th chakra. This is, and remember guys, they explain, we talk about the chakras being these like spinning points of energy in the body, right? They are actually going even deeper in the definition and saying that they're not just spinning points of body. They actually are attached and come from, I don't know if attached is a good word, but they come from different dimensions of frequency. And so the chakras then, from our understanding, or my understanding of reading Thoth's perspective, is that they are even more powerful than we have even given them credit for. And I know they're powerful, but there's so much more to this. I know, Chantelle, you've said this before, the human soul, we talked about this last week, the human soul is so big, and the spirit is so big, it doesn't even fit into the body. It's living in multiple dimensions. It's just our conscious mind is not aware of that. And so that's kind of what I believe they're saying here.
I think what really works for me in terms of that, and what was given to me very clearly many years ago in my teaching, your body and your spirit are not separate. Let's be very clear. Sorry?
It's the Shiva Shakti. Yeah, they're doing the tango.
Because think about this. when we talk about the expression, I always talk about God is the sun and we are the rays, right? So think about that expression of yourself being that individual ray. Okay. Now, your spirit vibrates on 99 dimensions, which is infinity.
Yeah.
Right? Body on, dang, that's a whole lot of slowing down you got to do. So what happens, because there is no such thing as separation, okay, there's no such thing. Remember, we experience what we experience on earth is the illusion of separation. And that's where humanity gets screwed all the time, because we feel we are separate. That's the core to our wound, right? That is the core of our wound, the feeling that we are separate. So when we understand that when the spirit chooses to come to planet Earth and experience life on planet Earth, right? It's going to come and it's going to, like, spirit being 99 dimensions will slow down. And so from 99, it's going to go, hello, body. Your body is an expression of your spirit. It is your spirit. And that's the difference. And this is how I like to explain the difference between soul and spirit. Now, I'm not talking in terms of whatever I talk to the layperson. I talk to it in simplistic terms. Your soul will be that aspect of spirit that incarnates in body in third dimension, because only a portion of your spirit can come to earth in your body. You see, because when we look at our brain, we're only really operating on between 4 and 10% right now, right? Which means our cellular power is the same. So as we start unlocking spirit within the cells of the body, so the body becomes more intelligent as a being. And that's when we realize matter and spirit have always been one. It's just the frequency of your spirit that has become matter is your body. Yeah. So when you know that, how do you not love yourself? How do you not realize that you are created from the same frequency as God? God has created you from God's frequency. The same energy that creates universes and multiverses has created you. So we have that potential, and that's what it is. It's the potential. We have the potential to be so much. But in order to realize that potential, crown chakra, okay, which is your full potential, and having that divine connection to God, we take those little steps and we experience humanity, the lower triad, the 3 lower chakras, the fears, the sexuality, the money, the greed, the pain, the suffering. That's all lower. And then as we go up, so everything then starts clearing as well. So your body is your body is your is your spirit in physical form. Mm-hmm. So whatever you're experiencing in this life, these are experiences through which your spirit needs to grow. Yeah. So nothing is by accident. It doesn't matter what you're going through right now. It's not an accident. You're meant to be where you are. And all you have to do is learn the language of your body, because it's a highly intelligent vehicle. It's your spirit in physical form, to the extent that you are using it. Right?
And that's what my boyfriend said the other day. We were talking about, so like we talk about strange things on walks, the same stuff we talk about on air, but we, are in the neighborhood. And you said, you make these contracts, if you will, these decisions to struggle with things because you know that this is where your spirit needs refining. And I love that he used the word refining. You know that there's something that needs to be refined. And so you go in, it's almost like taking the polish and polishing a part of that spirit. I just loved he said that, because yeah, the Shakti, the spirit, the body is the Shakti. It's the expression of the soul. And I know, just in case people leave comments, I think Shanti just said it very eloquently. We're speaking in layman's terms. I understand that there is Atman, there is Brahman, there are even deeper philosophical ideas behind the soul and the spirit. There is the Atman. We understand that, but just on a very base level, yeah, it's your soul decided what it needed to refine, and so it expressed itself in a way where there could be refinement in that particular area. It's something Ram Dass said this a long time ago, and I really appreciated him saying this, because we see this a lot. I see this a lot as a Westerner, as a white person, American, who grew up Presbyterian, who started going to India. You know, when you're in India, you do, I know probably the second religion I know the most about is Hinduism, because of my time in India. And what you tend to see is people then will like leave their Western life behind and completely adapt a Hindu life, and this vice versa. When you see Indians come to America, they'll leave their Hinduism behind and completely adapt to. But Ram Dass was like, but be careful with that. You can take from these experiences from these other cultures, but your body, your soul, you decided to incarnate in a particular culture because there was something from that culture that you needed to learn and grow from. And so yeah, your soul is so intuitive and so smart, and it designed everything perfectly. You know, it's funny. I was laughing because I've been studying all these cults, because a lot of these whistleblowers are going to start talking about this. And I was looking at Scientology and their views on reincarnation, because they also believe in reincarnation. But get this, we talk about reincarnation. We talk about the eternal life of the soul, and that it's a very complicated, detailed process that every person in your family, you've made contracts, you have this dynamic relationship with, all this kind of stuff. Well, get this, I cracked up at this. Scientologists say that they believe that when a Scientologist passes away, they go hang out at the hospital and just wait for a baby body to jump into. And I was like, oh, if it was only that easy. If it was only that easy. No.
Hang on. What is very scary is that they do, I'm not saying Scientologists, but what happens is if someone has passed away and their spirit has not crossed over into the light, where they get cleansing and purification and understanding before they reincarnate back onto earth again, right?
Yeah.
They do. That's the whole suffering, you see. And this is what I believe is what Jesus says when he's coming to set setting the captive souls free. These are the captive souls, because let's look at the slaughterhouse industry. That happens. There's so much trauma. Many of those animal spirits get caught in this abyss, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing with traumatized humans. That's what ghosts are, really. And
yeah,
also
I believe that for sure.
Lower rung spirits. So what happens is, it's true, they do that. They will wait for the next available body, and they will jump into that body if they can. And very often they will do their nonsense in there. But then it's like, because they haven't had that cleansing, so that soul comes back, or that body comes back, and therefore then they will then take over that and have a traumatic experience in this life again. That's how the suffering continues, is because souls do not actually, many of them in traumatic times, don't actually exit. They remain earthbound, which is why when people eat meat, you have to honor the animal that you're eating, because that sets its soul free. Things like this, little things that people have no idea about. And it's these things. So there are those that suffer and hang around and have bodies.
Because I believe souls enter the wound, the baby while it's in the wound. But I just thought it was so hysterical. And they were saying that on these like Facebook Facebook pages for Scientologists, that a Scientologist woman will be about to give birth. And I was like, no, when I heard this. They'll put posts up where they're like, if there's any older Scientologists that are ready to drop the body, like die, basically drop, that's what they call drop the body. I'm about to give birth. You can jump into my, and when I heard that, I was like, oh, that is actually sad and hysterical at the same time. Could you imagine? Like, because I just, just to be that, just because that is in Scientology, they are taught to be, from what I understand, children are not children. They are grown-ups in small bodies. So children are treated like grown-ups. They're not, they try to sever the mother-child connection, which we talk a lot about on Wednesday. They try to sever that. So there's a disconnect between the child being your child. And they were saying with like Suri Cruise, Tom Cruise's daughter, that they're probably, allegedly, like suspiciously, they're probably like, I wonder who Suri was. Was she L. Ron Hubbard? Like, because they believe they will make these. And I'm like, that is, tell me you're in a cult without telling me you're in a cult. Like that's so,
exactly.
Like, so, but yeah, exactly. And that's, so it's interesting. It's so interesting because we know that you can't kill a soul. You can't do it. You can kill a body, but you can't kill a soul. Souls keep regenerating. And and it is in that refinement of something. So we do know that a lot of times we pick up, and I always tell people too, like, don't focus so much on who you were in a past life, because that life is over. Think about what you're struggling with and work on it now in this life. What are you being
who you are in this life is the culmination of every single life that you've ever lived. Exactly. So you are the wisest version of yourself, by the way. Exactly. And I know many of us like to go back and, I was Cleopatra and I don't know, whoever they think. And it's like, nope.
No one was ever the peasant. No one was ever the peasant or the pauper. They were always.
Exactly.
Yeah, and and I always say, if you are obsessed with that, finding past life, then there's something you're avoiding in this life. That's how I see it. Like, I love my life as Bryce. I find I know past life stuff that's interesting, but I love being Bryce in this life, And so, and so with the chakras, these are kind of like, the way I see it too, it's kind of like, I always say the body is also like a GPS system, because the body is going to tell you, is going to communicate with you as to where there's something that's off. And of course, we know as spiritualists, as mystics, as seekers, we know that when there's something wrong with our health, it's not black and white. It's not just like, oh, this is just something you inherited. There's something that's connected to a particular chakra that's showing you. It's literally like taking a highlighter and your soul's being like, we're just going to highlight this right here for you just to go back and look at this, And so that's what and again, that dissension, that triad going down into. So again, that starts us at verse 36, which is frequency Lord Goyana. I hope I'm saying that right. Goyana. That's the 6th chakra, which from my understanding, this is actually where the soul enters and exits the body. Like when the soul comes into the body and when it exits. And I will say, I know from my experience in India, in Indian burials, what they do with a lot of the Hindu, and this might just be Brahmin, so I'm not sure if it's different caste, but when a person passes away, they parade the body around and they go to the burning fields where they lay the body out. They put a towel over the face of the deceased loved one, and the oldest son, it was an orb went by, the oldest son has to actually stomp on the forehead of the deceased relative to break the skull, to release anything left of the spirit that's still in the body, so the spirit can move to the next, move on. And then when they
gotta say, that sounds extremely gruesome.
It does, but they cover the face. I would not want to do that either, but I know when you've been grandfathered into something, it might be normal. But then when they incinerate the body, when they hear the rest of the skull pop, that's them knowing that, okay, the spirit is totally free of the body at this point. So that's fascinating to me when we talk about the 6th chakra, that there is such an emphasis when you go, when you do puja, which is prayer, you get a marking, a bindi here. They mark you. Where I go in India, where my school is, there's all these street dogs. It's a very nice area, very well-educated area, well-educated people, and a bunch of the street dogs that live on that street every morning, the locals will come out and do puja over the dogs and mark all the dogs on their third eye. So this is a very important, where were they taking our temperatures during the beer bug? When you would walk, they would zap you right here, right? This is a very important area. And so I just wanted to express that, because for us Westerners, I don't know if we're not raised to understand the different points. So he says 6 is the Lord of light, the hidden pathway, paths of the souls of the children of men. Thoughts, commentary in modern English. 6, Lord of Light. Indeed, for his name is Guyana, and he is associated. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, guys. It's the heart chakra. We've already gone through. This is my hangover.
I was gonna
This
say.
is my hangover. I'm sorry.
Something's off.
This is my vodka mind.
Something
Yes,
this week.
we've already gone through 7, 6, 5, and 4. So this is the heart chakra. So Guyana, this is the part of the pathway that so many ignore for the greatness it holds. And so yes, the heart is now the middle bit between the upper and the lower, right? And again, Chanti, we did a show on this, didn't we, a while ago about the chakras, and we talked about the hands, the chakras and the hands, and how the hands, so the heart chakra itself is a green color, and the hands are a pink color, correct? The chakra color. And we even so exercises where you can like press and go in clockwise positions into each side of your hand to connect to that heart. All right. The path of the heart is the path of all your life. All that you need to know is already written in there on the walls of your heart. Be still, go within, search for your heart in stillness, and that hidden pathway will be revealed to you. Shishat contributes her wisdom. And all this teaching, we have been speaking over and over about the wisdom of the heart. The desires of your heart are your guidelines to your soul purpose. Call upon Lord Guyana to help you to open up your heart to the wisdom that is already there. True beings of light will always point you in the direction of your heart. So that also kind of gets into like gut response and gut intuition and understanding. And I want to, we talked, I think it was last week, we talked about like Shishat spoke about unhealthy programming and unhealthy programming of what we've been conditioned to believe about our worth. And we know that the Bible, the 66 books, we know this is not speculation, this is fact. The 66 books of the canonized Bible have been heavily edited. We have all that information. You can find that how they've edited, where it's been edited. And there's a part in the canonized Bible that says, lean not on your own understanding. And that has always bothered me, because that is taking away your gut intuition, which is actually your voice of God, which comes to your heart's desire. So I kind of reflect on that, because we know in like cults like Nexium, for example, they would teach you that your intuition wasn't accurate, you know, that you need to rely on logic. And so I want people to see that, like, have we been conditioned, especially in the Western world, by an edited, it's not scripture if it's edited, it's just propaganda, to think that our heart and our soul and our gut isn't accurate. We're told not to rely on our own feelings. And so here we see in the Emerald Tablets, they're saying, yes, you need to rely on your gut intuition. You need to learn how to listen to the subtle body. You need to learn how to feel what's in your heart. That's never going to lead you astray. And my friend Tamara says it brilliantly when people ask her, what's the difference between your gut or your heart and fear? Well, she said that's simple. Fear makes sense. Sometimes your heart's desire, your gut intuition is not going to make logical sense to you because it's God speaking. And so I want people to really consider that, because that was eye-opening too, because it's conflicting, right? It's conflicting teachings when you're looking at I will say the church is a destructive cult. It absolutely meets all the guidelines for being a destructive cult. It's not, the Bible is not the word of God. It's edited. It's the word of the Satanist, basically, of Constantine. And so if you go back and look at like Magdalene's gospel, again, she's also saying, descend before you can ascend, and listen to your gut. Listen to what your heart is saying and your gut is saying. So we have in these missing gospels, they're saying the same thing as Thoth, right?
But couldn't it also be like, you know, that dark night of the soul type scenario as well? You know, really just, you know, what we have to do as well is really understand that the dark night of the soul, all these, and I can tell you as a healer for sure, lots of people are having a dark night of the soul right now. You know, and yeah, so it's almost like that breaking through the last bit of that, I want to say third dimensional suit that we as humans have been putting on for all these eons since we've been incarnating on this planet, because we've had to, you know, we've come here to experience the illusion of separation. So we have to kind of armor up, right? Immediately, you got to kind of, where am I? What am I doing? It's like that feeling immediately of suddenly not having this internal or this constant knowing of who I am taken away, and I've now got to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So instead of knowing, I've now got to figure things out. So immediately we go into a different frequency. So it's almost like that structure of having to do stuff, which is very important, creating that structure, but also then the energy and the influence that works with that structure and kind of creates, that's where we've got to lose that. And that I think is our deepest resistance. That is our strongest resistance. And it's the most subtle resistance. And I think that's why so many people are in a lot of confusion at this point in time. It's like facing the strongest resistance, the thing that you least think you need to do, want to do, think you're able to do, is probably what you're called to do right now. And when we get there, we realize it's an open door, right, type thing. So then everything starts making sense, and then you flow up. And then like the tree, right? The feeding of the roots, think of the roots, creating that space, your foundation. Then you flow and go, hello, everybody. That's kind of like that's my analysis of what that is. And I think you're right as well, going down and then obviously opening up. Yeah.
It's hard to go down. It's hard to deal with the issues that we deal with when it comes to these heavy things, as far as Muladhara all the way up to Manipur. There's some heavy traumas there that we just don't want to touch. We need to lean into that. And I will say too, I was just, as you were saying that, I was thinking about this timeline we're in right now, as we're coming into this new type of what is the Sophia? I love how Sophia calls it the golden age of miracles, right? We're coming into a new understanding. And so many people I know have met on this journey when they realized, had that aha moment, that education's lied to us, the doctors have lied to us, the schools have, the church has lied to us. They go, you know what? I always knew something wasn't right. Like they always knew something just wasn't right. And okay. And I think that's why there's a huge group of people that kind of woke up, if you will, so quickly, is because all of a sudden their soul was like, yes, okay, this is truth here. The soul will always resonate with truth. It will always resonate with truth.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And even if the logical mind can't process the truth, the soul will always resonate with it. And that's why all these disastrous cults and organizations try to get you to disconnect from that. It's because they know that is your lie detector. That's always going to be your personal, when it comes to your own truth. I always tell students, ultimately, at the end of the day, any type of spiritual practice, whether it's yoga, Reiki, martial arts, whatever spiritual, knitting, whatever type of meditation practice you're doing, the ultimate goal is to be able to understand the truth through the illusion, to be able to understand it and see it for what it is. And that's including your own illusion. It starts with you. It starts with you seeing your own illusion before you can then see the world around you. So this brings us to verse 37. Frequency Lord Hertal, spelled Huertal. I hope I'm saying that correctly. 7 is he who is the Lord of vastness, master of space, and the key of the times. Thoth's commentary in modern English. Hertal is the Lord of the solar plexus chakra. Herein you will find the will of man. So solar plexus chakra, Manipura in Sanskrit, that's right up where your rib cage meets, where it's like an upside down V. It's that whole area right there. That's your solar plexus chakra. This Lord is the master of all space and holds the keys of time. The human will is the master of all space and time, whether man is aware of this or not. Shishat contributes her wisdom. Much good will come as you focus on strengthening the solar plex chakra. Only you are in charge of you. And she puts that in upper cases there. So very important when Shishat does that, when she puts things. I think she's the only one out of the two of them. She's the one that always is putting things in upper caps. She's such a woman. I love it. She's so charismatic. I love it. As you grow in confidence, that your will can be strengthened, in a capital can be strengthened, so shall more and more good come to you. It is very discouraging to your spiritual growth to feel as if someone or something else is in charge of you.
Yeah.
If you're waiting for someone to save you.
Personal power.
Yes, no one's coming to save you. That's not what Yahshua was teaching. Yahshua was not teaching that he was here to save you. Yahshua was teaching that he was that his Jewish students called him what? Rabbi. What does rabbi mean? Teacher. It means teacher. They didn't call him savior. They called him teacher. He was teaching them how they could save themselves, how they could do the work. That's what Maxwell did as well. So you are in charge of you. Your religion is not in charge of you. Your boss is not in charge of you. The government is not in charge of you. You are in charge of you. Perhaps in past times you have given up all your power. It is now time that you take all the power that you have mistakenly given to others, all in cap locks and bold print here. But
isn't it interesting at this time we notice how many people at the zippy zappy time were not in control of their personal power. The fear that people displayed, that is a typical example of humans not being in their personal power.
Yeah.
If you think that thing's going to save you, or you are going to get fired, or whatever the case might be, that cowering to the fear because there's something or someone more powerful than you, that dominant force. And this is also the chakra of the dictators. The dictators, when you've got a shutdown, or I mean, it's not even dictators, but I mean, it's them as well. But like we look at these politicians, that's exactly, they've all got shut down solar plexus because they don't believe in personal power. So they will govern by fear. And that's that completely the dominant, rather than having personal power and realizing everyone is the same makeup of you, and you can just step back and allow people to be. Yes, we can guide ourselves and do whatever, but they want to dominate, control. But that comes from fear of not having. So that greed, this is also the chakra of greed, right? And that comes from the fear. Greed comes from the fear of not having. So let's just think about that for a minute. There are so many greedy people on this planet. If we look at the corruption and money and stealing and child cannibalism and stuff like that, they do that because they fear that they don't have life, youth, beauty, whatever it is, of their own. And that's because they've separated from that knowledge that they are one with God. That all comes from the illusion of separation. All of these things, if you sit and we dissect it and we go like layer by layer, you're going to see it all translates to that. So the bottom line is, and that's why I say, we can talk about all the fancy books, and you can sit with all the world's best teachers and Magi and whatever. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. When you've understood that you are one with your Creator, and that you are co-creating, and God flows through you, into you, inspires you to act. That's how it is to do God's will. That's what we talk about, doing God's will, right? So it doesn't matter about anything else. Doesn't matter about alpha, theta, what, blah, 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 blah. All of these things. You just have to remember you belong to God. You always have. You always will, and you are here experiencing the illusion of separation. And when we get that, it's like nothing else matters. And that's sitting in this chakra. It starts with the root chakra. You can't say that it sits in every day. There's fragments of crap in every chakra, and it's true. What you're saying, refinement. I always call fine tuning. It's like fine tuning a guitar. An old guitar, or your old piano that's been sitting in your attic for so long. Dong, dong, dong. And the minute you get it out, beautify it, fix the wires or whatever you call those things, piano wire, soon you're able to replay your beautiful tune, your vibration, your harmony, that is unique to you. And that comes from remembering you're one with God. That's it.
Yeah. And I will say this is a tricky one too. And they talked about this last week. As you were saying this, I was thinking about like all the ways we subtly give our power away. And it results in things like cognitive dissonance. So I'll say this again, like there's so many people who are so angry that I'm reading through the missing books of the Bible, which is censorship. If you support that, you're supporting censorship. But why? Why are you afraid of reading the missing books of the Bible? What's going to happen to you? That's indoctrination. That's where you've given your power away to something else, to an organization. There's a lot of people that are terrified to actually study the Council of Nicaea, to see exactly, go through all the paperwork. It's still filed, to see where they've edited the Bible. They're terrified to even look at that because they've already given their power away to another organization. And so I will encourage people, if they're feeling that fear, to journal, sit back into that. Nothing's bad's going to happen to you if you just read something. Like nothing's going to happen. It's, as Aristotle said, it's a sign of an intelligent mind if you can entertain an idea without accepting it. All you're doing is reading through paperwork. But are you terrified? What are you actually afraid of? Because you've given, most of the time, it's because you've given your power away to something outside of yourself, which is not what Yeshua taught. Yeshua taught that heaven and hell is inside of you. It's all inside of you. Your pastor, your preacher, your church has absolutely no determination in what happens to your soul. They have no determination. You, it's you. It's always been you. It's always been you. You have that spark of light, and God gave you a brain for, you have critical thinking for a reason. That's to protect you, to retain your power. And so I would encourage people in all aspects, or maybe you are someone that is, it's no different than people who are so hell bent on following Dr. Fauci without logic. It's the same thing. So people who follow religion without logic, who won't look at who have cognitive dissonance about religion, it's exactly the same as those that follow the, we'll say Dr. F again. I don't want to say his name too much. Dr. F with his zappardy-do without questioning. So if you're not questioning your church, if you're not questioning your temple, if you're not questioning your synagogue, if you're not questioning your mosque, you're doing the same thing as those that are not questioning Dr. F. It's the same type of cognitive dissonance, and that's giving power away. We see it with this, like as Shanti was saying, those that ran to get the zappardy-do. There's no difference between that and people who are running to a religion. It's the same type of relinquishing power to something outside of you. Okay? So I just want people, that's the biggest thing I pray for people, is that they understand you are not, you are that power. You were born with that spark of life. The Holy Spirit you never had to invite the Holy Spirit, and it was already there. The Shekinah, as it's called, was already there. So take it back. It's still there. It never left you. It's still there. So take it back. She goes on to say, begin by focusing on your will. Avoid giving attention to all the times in which you failed to use your will. So when you gave in. Yes, acknowledge briefly past incidents, yet do not stay there. It does not matter what has gone before. Now is the time to claim your own will and the power that you have used in that power. This Lord or frequency can help you raise your own awareness. The solar plexus is his domain, and he seeks to be of service. Hertal, Hertal, Hertal. And remember, you are not in servitude to Hertal. His mission is to be of service to all. So you can be in union with something and not in servitude to it. Do these lords or frequencies a favor, help a Lord fulfill his mission? P.S. In the original tablets, Thoth, my beloved, did refer to these frequencies as lords. The lords are interchangeably masculine and feminine, whatever makes you feel more comfortable. Use that gender. In truth, these sound frequencies advocate a sound signature that is genderless. I think we understand that. All right, so that brings us to verse 38 from tablet 3. This is the Lord frequency, Simvata. 8 is he who orders the progress, weighs and balances the journey of men. Thoughts, commentary, and modern English. 8 is the Lord or governor of the sexual chakra. That is the center of creation for both male and female. His name is Simvata. Of course, the sexual chakra weighs and balances the evolution and progress of all humanity. Not only human life, but animal, plants, and even elemental lives are ruled by the power of creation. Nature itself brings a balance of evolution to all species. Many light workers are a bit ashamed of the sexual chakra, yet without a healthy sex chakra, all the other energy vortexes are cut off with barely a trickle of life. Indeed, the balance of the journey of all creation is found within the sexual chakra. Shishat contributes her wisdom. Simvata, Simvata, Simvata. I can hear it now ringing out from the bedrooms across the globe. If someone were in the bed with me and screamed out Simvata, I'd be like, hold up. That's some freaky shit I'm not really into. Who knew that sound frequency could activate this often ignored chakra? I will give practical uses for this activation. Chanting the name Simvata calls more energy into any creative endeavor. Try it and you will see. So that's the thing about the sexual chakra too, is what people often don't understand. It's not just the sexual chakra. It's also your creative chakra. It's where you're creative.
Yeah. It's the feminine organs where you birth another human. It's the most important chakra, because think about this. I mean, women create, right? This is the feminine chakra that you give birth. That's where your uterus, your womb, your feminine, your whole reproductive system, all the water organs of the body belong here. All the fluids in the body belong. And anyone who thinks, I mean, it's like, think about, we've been taught that creativity is bullshit, right? We don't have time for that nonsense. Creativity is like the life flow that flows through us. It's like chopping off your arm and just like shutting down. You have that potential and you're not using it, right? So you can operate without it, but it's all business and no pleasure. So we become these intensely dried up, intellectual, all work people, and creativity gives us that feeling, the feminine energy flowing through us, birthing new ideas, birthing new desires, birthing new creations, birthing new understandings. We cannot be creative. We cannot live life in a healthy, productive way if we choose not to use our creative energy. That could be doodling. It could be planting your garden. It could be writing, whatever. Yeah, anything. But we have to, if we want to be fulfilled, we have to tune into our creative energy, the kid inside of us. We have to.
That's what, and that's why you're right, because a lot of school systems here in America are getting rid of the arts programs, and that's very sad. It's very sad.
Wow.
My sister and my grandmother, my dad's mother was a pianist, and it was important to my parents that my sister and I took piano every week. We had Mrs. Siegler would come teach us piano our whole childhood. So that was important to my parents. My sister and I were also raised going to the theater all the time. Every time a national tour came in from New York, we would go see it. That was very important to my parents. This is a very important. It's why one of my favorite, I love Alan Watts as it is. He's was a great philosopher and brought a lot of the Eastern philosophy to the West. And one of my favorite things from Alan Watts is when somebody asked him, what's the point of life? Like that big question, why are we here? And Alan Watts just looked and said, it's simple. The point of life is to be alive, to experience. And that's what art is. Art is actually allowing yourself to experience life, to experience the highs and lows, regardless of who Shakespeare was. I know there's questions about who Shakespeare was, but the reason why we still study Shakespeare to this day, the reason why Shakespeare's plays are so impactful to us even to this day, is because as human beings at a very visceral level, we can empathize, we can connect with the characters, even though they're 500 years older than us, because we still have the same feelings of jealousy, deceit, passion, love, sadness. It resonates through us. And so that's why we can read, the Bhagavad Gita and feel a connection to Arjuna, even though we're not standing on a battlefield with a chariot. We still can feel that feeling of especially now, because the Bhagavad Gita, we're basically living that out right now, standing on a battlefield, looking at our friends and family going, what, so I think that's so important to people to understand. And we look and see, I know I talked about this last week, like growing up in the Southeast, I was thinking a lot about this, especially with women. I think women in the Southeast, it's mostly Protestant churches. There's not a lot of Catholics down here. There's a very funny podcast I listen to called Small Town Murder, and they always say Baptists, the Catholics of the South, Catholics, the Baptists of the North. But in the 80s and 90s, when I was a child growing up in church, there was this whole purity culture phenomenon that was going through the churches, where you would sign a purity pledge, and it freaking freaks me out now, because you basically signed a pledge to your father. The girls would wear wedding bands like they belonged to their father, so that they would not have sex. I mean, gross, fucking gross, like disgusting, you know, looking back on it now. But they would give this analogy that for a woman, if a woman were to lose her virginity before marriage, it would be like handing her husband a chewed up piece of bubble gum. And so many girls around my age, have a lot of trauma around that sexual chakra, because their whole worth was put on them being a virgin. And I'm here to tell you, once again, if you study the missing gospels, the real gospels, because once again, this is not speculation, this is not opinion, this is fact. The Bible is not true. It's been edited, it's been changed. That is fact. That is fact. Okay, so if you look at the missing gospels, you are going to see that Yahshua, and again, the name Jesus means hail Satan, so be careful with using Jesus. Yahshua was never teaching. He never taught purity culture, ever. Instead, and actually in one of the missing gospel, he actually we know in the propaganda, the fake Bible, he never speaks about homosexuality. Only the Roman law talks about it. But in the missing gospels, he actually does speak about it. He says it's fine. If there's love, there's love. It's all about love. He says that. If you love someone, you love someone. It's all love. And actually, I will tell you, if you read the Magdalene manuscript, Yahshua and Magdalene were not virgins when they got married. They were boinking before they got married. Like that's, and you know what? How human is that? How human is that? We all boinked before we got married, you know? Like all of us. Like how human is that?
Yourself.
I mean, you have to practice for the one and only, you know.
The one and only, yeah, you got to practice for the. It's like training wheels, right? I will tell you, my sister. So my sister got married at 25. She's been with her husband also. They're like totally soulmates, and they got married. And their plan was to, when they got married, they were going to follow Fish and Widespread Panic yet around for a few years in Dirt Twirl. They were going to wait till their 30s to have kids. Well, my sister got pregnant accidentally, like 2 months before her wedding, and her boobs all of a sudden, filled out. And so she's getting her wedding dress fitted, and she like burst out into tears because all of a sudden her boobs couldn't fit. And the seamstress was Asian, so the seamstress was like, "Oh, what's wrong? What's wrong?" My sister was like, "No, it's fine. I'm pregnant. My boobs. I'm pregnant." And the seamstress goes, "Oh, don't worry. Happen all the time. We fix. It happens all the time. Like women get pregnant before they get married all the time, And so like, I laugh about that because that's such a abusive thing to teach a child. It is such an abusive thing to teach a child, especially a little girl, that their value is only their sexuality and only being a virgin for their husband. It goes back to Bill Gothard's teaching, which Bill Gothard, I know Ginger Duggar, who is now married, she's written a book about coming out of the IBLP, which is another very dangerous cult. And Bill Gothard, basically, women are not, if a man, they teach the concept from what I've seen with the research I've done into their worksheets, that if a woman gets RAPE, I don't know if we can say this word on YouTube, RAPE'd, it's the woman's fault for enticing the man, right? So how disastrous is this? Like how, I look back at like my childhood. I grew up in a very conservative Christian home, but we were also secular in the sense that my parents we wore bikinis. My parents practiced birth control. Like, they drank, and I look at the boys I grew up with and there was never problems because they were used to seeing girls, there was no, anyway. So it's the sexual chakra is so important. And I love how Magdalene teaches it in the Magdalene manuscript. If you guys ever read her manuscript, the Magdalene manuscript, because she talks about it's not about having a piece of paper that says you're married to someone. That's not what it's about. It's about being in the position of truly loving a person to the point, especially for women, you know, with sex with women, you are in a very vulnerable situation. Let's just be honest. Women are there's a comedian that talks about it, like, bless a woman's heart. Every time goes on a date, she literally could be murdered. Like, you know, think about women. Like, as a man, he's like, think about women. Like, every time she goes out, she could be murdered. Like, because we aren't as big as men. And so Magdalene talks about this and how true sexual liberation with a partner can only come when there is true love between the two of them and complete and unbelievable trust, especially coming from the woman, to completely trust her partner. So they're not saying, by me saying this, her gospel isn't saying go out and boink everyone. She's saying, like, this is a very serious thing you do with a partner, and it's a beautiful thing, but there's no talk of marriage. You know, that in my mind, a marriage is a spiritual connection with someone, not a piece of paper, right? So especially from the government, which is small. So anyway, I know that's going to ruffle the fundamentalist by me saying that, but who cares? Anyway, you might be in a cult if you get flustered by that. So she goes on to say, I will give practical uses for this activation. Chanting the name Simvata calls more energy into any creative endeavor. Try it and you will see. The sound frequency will be extremely helpful in all areas of sexuality. Men can use the frequency to help with the stimulation of blood flow that is essential to having a firm erection. Women can use frequency Simvata to increase desire and moisten the vaginal area. What? Are you shocked? She says, what? Are you shocked? As the author often says, spiritual information is of no value. It cannot be used to improve human life. She do agree wholeheartedly. So this has to be used in practical senses is what she's saying. And listen, if sex was a sin, then why did God create it? That's how life is created. Why would God give us the organs to do this if there wasn't something spiritual in it as well? I've never given birth. I know Shanti has. Morné and I have given birth to our animals. So I'm just kidding. But we have animal children. But I've been there with my sister when she's had her children, and there's nothing more spiritual than watching a child be born. There is nothing more magical and more one of my favorite videos to watch on YouTube is dads. There's all these YouTube shorts videos of dads when they hold their baby for the first time, and like seeing the father's face and like seeing fathers break down crying. There's also funny videos of fathers passing out and where the wife's literally pushing the baby out, the father just goes poof. So, but it's magical, it's beautiful, and that can't happen. That exchange can't happen unless the sexual chakra was used, right? Unless the womb, the chalice, was activated. And so I hope that makes sense. You are a spiritual being experiencing a human lifetime. Take all the pleasure that you can. So that's what Shanti was saying last week. You are a spiritual being experiencing a human lifetime. Take all the pleasure that you can.
Spiritual. Life is spiritual. Let's never forget that.
Yeah.
Rather than physical.
It's like Alan Watts said, what's the point of being alive? The point of life is to be alive. It's to actually be alive. That's it. Yeah. Just be alive. That's the point of life. So any information that you are studying does not help you in if any information you are studying does not help you in a practical way, look elsewhere. So I know that's going to ruffle some feathers because we are really taught a lot of shame around the sexual chakras. We are taught a lot of shame. I know one of my favorite, most scandalous families to study is the Borgias. So the pictures of Jesus that you have in your churches is actually the picture of Cesare Borgia. You guys can look that up for yourself, research that for yourself. The Borgias, so the father was a pope. So listen to this. So here is an institution, and it's not just the Christian church. It's a lot of religions that tell you don't have sex, don't have shameful, shame on you, you had sex, shame on you. But all of their popes had illegitimate children. They were all banging people. So when we see things clearly for what it is, we realize where the deception is, right? And it can be used. We know from our friends who are whistleblowers, they can use this in a negative way. Magdalene teaches you how to use it in a positive way. I hope that makes sense. I know that's going to really upset the fundamentalist, but
no, it's true. I think I think it's very important to realize that a healthy sexual relationship is very normal. Again, as with everything, it's not about taking it to the extreme, but of course, as with any of the negative stuff, we're going to turn it around and find a lot of pleasure in that, and that's where we get stuck, right?
Yeah.
We often get stuck in that pleasure zone, that physical pleasure zone. Money, the power, the greed, the sex.
There is addiction to sex. That absolutely is a real thing. There is a sexual addiction.
Hello, pornography.
Exactly.
Hello,
I'm not denying that. There is. You can take things too far. Absolutely. That's not a problem I have. I'm not. We all, and I'm saying like every single person has the propensity to take something too far, whether that's alcohol, food, shopping, sex. That's for you to go, wait a minute.
Get yourself back. That's all. Get yourself back into balance. Yes. That's all.
Yes. So yes, absolutely. And so, so if you are addicted to sex, then that's something that you need to work on. You can talk to Shanti or any of the healers to help you figure out how to take your power back and take,
Well, don't necessarily come and talk to me if you're addicted to sex.
No, I mean like for the healing, for the
yes.
The sound bowl healing. I know, I don't play the sound bowl, so.
But you guys are laughing now, but just look at how the system has inverted the sacral chakra over many years. I mean, art is not important subject. Art is not important, creative is not important, and they've shamed our sexualities and can't show it, can't look at it, can't share it, and now after they've shamed it for so long, then comes the hippies. They break free and they go into that love mode, but then they go over to the other wall, and now they're inverting it. Now they're making it extreme sexual. So now we're not shaming it. Now we're showing it in the public. So they know what our strong. Where they can easily manipulate our energy points. It's just, I don't like to say one chakra is more important than the other one, but this one is powerful.
Yes.
So it's interesting to see how they infiltrated it.
And I want to say that too, like that's one thing I loved about Yahshua's teaching in the Missing Gospels is as far as like, there's, as long as there is love involved between two people, there's no such thing as a sinful relationship. It doesn't exist. I love that Yahshua said that. I love that he said that. Like, if two men love each other, amazing. That's beautiful. That's love. If two women love each other, amazing, beautiful. As long as there's love and consent, a man and a woman, love and consent. The only thing that's not okay is when it's a child, but that's a different story. And I will say, like, I love, because they've even done that with us, right? They've even said, like, this type of relationship is wrong and that type of relationship is right. As long as it's two consenting adults who truly, truly love each other. I mean, my best friend who is gay, he's had a longer, healthier relationship than I've ever had, and it's beautiful to see these teachings from Yahshua. So I really encourage everybody, especially if you grew up in a church and you have wounds around your own sexuality from purity culture, I would really encourage you as part of your healing to start to read the Missing Gospels and see what Yeshua really said about this. Because it's so liberating. It's so liberating to see, and it's such kindness. Like, who cares? As long as people love each other, that's all it is love. So who cares? Yeah. So I would really encourage you as part of your healing to start to read that, because you'll see the real Yahshua. Not the propaganda one the church created to control you and scare you, but the real Yeshua, the real one, and what he said.
Absolutely. I just want to question you, and we put him in timeout.
I did.
Timeout, people scared. A guy that was feeling that you were blaspheming because you said Jesus means hail Satan. So maybe you can just set that straight for the viewers as to where that comes from. I know we've spoken about it before.
So that was created by King James with the King James Bible. Jesus, so just so you guys understand, the J sound During Jesus's time, the J sound did not exist. There was no J.
Yeah.
That's the first thing you need to understand, is that there was no J sound. So where did Jesus come from? So around the time of King James, I have a whole breakdown of this on my channel, actually. So we have what we call the King James Bible in circulation right now. King James was a Satanist. This is not speculation. This is fact. I have all the proof. He was a master Mason, Freemason, and he's still registered as a warlock in the Freemasonry world. And a lot of his quotes are horrific. He has actual quotes where he considered himself to be a god. He hated women. We have actual documented proof of him raping little boys in public. His guards would journal it. They couldn't say anything or they'd get executed. And so this is the person whose Bible. So at that time of circulation, there was another Bible called the Geneva Bible. The Geneva Bible was the true Bible. King James systematically got rid of the Geneva Bible. You can't even find the Geneva Bible now. There's one copy for sale for like a couple million that they keep hidden. And so he took all the Geneva's Bibles, banned them, got rid of them, and created the King James Bible himself and the Freemasons. The Freemasons also helped create the King James Bible. This is where they concocted the story of the crucifixion. Jesus was never, or Yahshua was never crucified, because the God of light, the God source, does not demand. What do the Satanists do on Epstein Island? And at least they do human sacrifice, blood ritual, cannibalism. What do we do in church? We venerate human sacrifice. We take communion. Okay, so at some point it starts to get a little bit common sense here. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. So they also created the worshiping of people like Moses, of Abraham, of Jacob, of Solomon. The missing books of the Old Testament are very clear that these were Satanists. They were trafficking women. They were committing human sacrifice. Solomon, in the Testament of Solomon, which is a missing book, he says very clearly that he's a worshiper of Moloch. He worships Moloch. In fact, David left the kingdom to Solomon out of all of his kids, because Solomon was the only child of his that was continuing in the faith, was continuing to sacrifice babies to Moloch. The rest of his kids walked away, and so David left the kingdom. David was not a good guy. These are bloodlines of the cabal that you're venerating. And so the name of Yahshua was changed. They were not Jewish. Yahshua nor Magdalene were Jewish. They had Jewish students. They were Egyptian. They were of the priest and priesthood of Isis. Okay, that's another inversion. Isis and Osiris were not bad. And they were Egyptian. They were Atlantean. They were the descendants of the Atlantean. Okay, so Jesus, I will, anybody questioning that, I will say, no, it's not blasphemy. And how dare you say that without doing research? That shows your ignorance and your cognitive dissonance, and it shows where you've given your power away, and it shows where you are being basically controlled by a cult. Jesus, they want you saying Jesus because it means hell Satan. Just look, you just gotta research, guys. You just gotta research this. Yeshua with the Y, it translates with the J to Joshua, not Jesus. Joshua would be Yeshua, Joshua. Yeshua ben Yosef was his name. Okay, modern terms. Joshua ben Joseph. Mary, the name Mary was also derogatory. None of these women were named Mary. Remember, King James hated women, hated them. Okay, Magdalene was Magdalene. Yeshua's mother was called Alma Mari, not Mary. Mary of Bethany was just Bethany. All that, why, I mean, has anybody ever stopped to take a gander or ponder why all the women in the New Testament are Mary?
Yes.
Like,
that's confused me.
It's kind of idiot. At some point you're like, wait a minute, they think we're idiots. Like, none of these women, like, I mean, I know they didn't have baby book names back then, but I guarantee you there was quite a selection of names to pick from. You know, Yahshua had 70 students, 70, not 12. 12 was done to mimic mythology.
Just hang on. I want to just say something. Rory, you are actually hugely disrespectful. What you're saying here is you can't mash together different cultures to make up some BS to fit your narrative. I think if you've been in timeout for the past 5 minutes, so you actually haven't listened to what Bryce was saying. So please go and listen to what Bryce was saying and do your research, because right now, buddy, I'm saying au revoir to you.
Yeah, it's very sad. I actually feel very sorry for people that are that brainwashed, because they are under cabal control.
Don't be rude. I mean, it's just like,
Yes,
you know, if you're telling someone they've got a bullshit narrative, you know, then I'm sorry. This is the type of stuff that I don't appreciate here. We all have different points of view. We are open-minded on this channel. We research, we look at things. I like to listen to different points of view. I've come from a very open-minded background myself. When, you know, we're looking at things, we're understanding things. And I mean, I'm a mystic. We look at things on a mystic level, right? Bryce is brilliant at her research and stuff like that. So don't tell someone they're pushing a bullshit narrative and be rude and disrespectful to my viewers on the, to my guests on this channel, because you will get blocked there. Go and do research. If you disagree with what Bryce is saying, by all means, you're entitled to. But then don't sit and listen to the show and sit there trolling and swearing. I can't understand why people do that. I cannot understand why people do that. So if you don't like what we're saying, fine. If you're listening for research purposes, which is a very good thing if you are, then listen. And if you have questions, email us or do so respectfully in the comments. That's all I'm saying.
And I will say, when I first started my journey into the missing books of the Bible, I believed that in the name Jesus, I believed Jesus was crucified. I believed he was Jewish. It was only through a couple of years of research and digging that I started to see everything unfold and everything fall apart. And the truth resonated with me. I was like, okay, this makes sense. Okay. Oh my God. And I'm telling you guys, the missing gospels are beautiful. If you go back on my channel, I read through them. I can't control myself. I start sobbing at the teachings of Yahshua and Matt. There's so much love there. And the only reason why I'm bringing up that they were Egyptian, not Jewish, is because of what the cabal is doing. It doesn't matter, in my opinion, it doesn't matter what race someone is, but once you see it, you go, oh, okay, I see what they're doing here. It also goes back again to the Egyptian being the Atlanteans, all right, the Merovingians. So it starts to make more sense. And yes, my narrative to Rory, my narrative is based off of years of research. Years and years of actual research, because I am open-minded. So I went into this believing one thing and came out of it believing another thing. That's where I learned that the word church comes from the word kirk, which means mind control, and it's also named after the Greek goddess Circe, who fed off of children.
Yeah.
So that's
Absolutely
true. So why don't we call them temples? Why do we call them churches? Well, there you go. They're telling you why. And so I absolutely have such a great love for Yahshua and Magdalene. I pray all the time. I talk to them all the time. And just because I'm telling you guys to challenge the narrative doesn't mean that they as spiritual beings don't exist. They absolutely exist. But what you're being told about them, and they're being used, and this is what pisses me off, especially Yahshua, is being used as a weapon to control and hurt people through the church. He's being used as a weapon. Yeah. His name has been changed to a derogatory name. So is Magdalene. Her name has been changed to a derogatory name as well. She was labeled as a prostitute. She wasn't. So my love for them, I want you guys to understand that according to the true scriptures, you are perfectly and wholly made, and you are loved so much. And there is nothing you can do to not receive that love. You are that love. And Yahshua and Magdalene want nothing more than for people to understand that. Yahshua hated the temples. And you know that scene in the Bible where he goes in because they're doing business in the temple? Nuh-uh. They weren't doing business in the temple, guys. That's bullshit. You know what they were doing according to the missing books of the Bible? You know what they were doing in the temple? Sacrifices.
Yeah.
Animal and human.
Yeah.
That's in the missing books of the Bible. So Yahshua wants
to going on since
forever.
So why did they change that? And again, the Bible, guys, this is not blasphemy. The fact that you're saying this is blasphemy is showing your indoctrination. This is factual. Anybody, I encourage everybody to don't take my word for it. Research it for yourself. If I could find this information and research it, so can you. I have videos on my channel. I have a whole breakdown of King James, the King James Bible and what happened. It's horrifying. And so every Bible you have, NIV, whatever version of the Bible you have, is a variation of King James. It's a variation of the King James Bible. The Geneva Bible is not available. So every single Bible out there is compromised because it's all a variation of King James.
I agree.
And that does not mean God is, remember, God is not a book. God is not a book. That does not mean God is compromised. It does not mean Yeshua is compromised. It does not mean Magdalene is compromised. It means the propaganda is compromised. And that's where you need to separate the book from the spirit. Right?
Exactly.
So anyway, my relationship with God is amazing. I have an incredible relationship with God. So we're good. We are good. So anyway.
Cool. And on that note, we shall bid you farewell for today, and we will see you Wednesday on Solutions with Aquarius Rising Africa. And we are doing the Sophia Code. So join us for that. Another beautiful book and lots of gorgeous inspiration and insight from Gaia. Awesome, guys. Take care of yourselves. God bless you all. Like, share, subscribe. Just share, please. Take care of yourselves, everybody. We'll see you in 2 days' time. Take care.
Bye. Ciao.